Good evening, everyone. Uh, I hope your weekend has been going well. It's going great here. So, for anyone who doesn't know me, I am Afif, and I am the design community manager here at ProApp. And today we have a very crucial yet not so covered topic with us, because I believe as designers there are very few boundaries. You know how you decide to shape the digital interactions, and how everyone can be affected by it. So, and it can potentially be a problem as well unless designers start taking the same ethical responsibility as any other professional should, because it's about shaping other people's reality. So whether you create a website, it can be a marketing campaign or a product, it has effect on real people, and those effects can eventually create ripples. So I could continue the dialogue around this, but we have someone who can showcase it all to you in the best way possible. So speaking about Alexandra, Alexandra is a senior product designer working at UiPath, and she has been designing user experiences for one of the world's most popular tools for automation management and many more. So she is an award-winning designer with nearly a decade of experience in this field, and her experience ranges from developing complex web products to conducting user research and developing strategies for products that require a touch of AI. And not just that, for the past 2 years, she has been involved in education, mentoring more than 50 students, and advocating accessibility, design ethics, which we are here for, and collaboration between designers and engineers. So she was also recently named one of the top 10 design mentors across continents. So uh, I think that's enough of me. And over to you, Alexandra.
So many nice words, Afif. Thank you for the nice intro. And thank you everyone for joining today. I know it's Saturday, and thinking about design also on Saturday, it's quite of a big thing. So thank you everyone for being here. As Afif said, I think ethics it's quite of a big topic nowadays. So I really felt the need to start sharing a story around it. It's a talk that I've been doing it since 2019, but I think with everything that has rise up nowadays, it become even more important. So I won't keep it any longer, and I will start sharing my screen for you and to start the talk. So as Afif said in the beginning, I'm a senior product designer at UiPath. He already said a couple of things about my two main passions, one of which is education and the other one which is AI. But one more thing that I like to say and add to all my presentation is that I'm doing all of this because long time ago, I started being such a computer nerd since I was very, very little. I like to say I started working or just being interested in this field since Winamp was really cool. Not sure if everyone knows what Winamp is. If you do, please type it in the chat. I'm really curious if any of you remembers it. I know it's also quite big now and it's coming back. It was a musical player, just so everyone knows. And for anyone who's asking a proof, this is a picture of me since I was little, thinking that I'm hacking someone. But in reality, I was just hacking my own computer. I broke it down 2 weeks after. So that's how I started to get into tech. I will start the presentation with a question that I actually start to get, and I also like to ask my fellow designers as well, which is, why should we care about ethics? You know, as a designer, you do your job, you create nice experiences, you might be focused more on the user interface, but ethics also plays quite of a big part in this process. So my answer, very short answer, is because as designer, there is something we can do. I know that a lot of time we spend time in the creation process, but I'm pretty sure that everyone knows that they had good or bad experiences because we are users as well. So today, I would say these are all the buzzwords that you're gonna find on the internet. So there is a lot going on with the metaverse. There is a lot of new tech. a lot of things going on in healthcare. You're going to hear a lot about crypto, robots, AI. So these are all kind of new topics. So if they are not new topics, they are getting more publicity nowadays and more accessible to everyone. So to me, when I see this in the news, it kind of brings up three main things. One is that it's kind of unknown. So since we just started making this more accessible to the public, there are still things to discover. And when there are still things to discover, there is also little governance around it. So we don't have many laws in all of these domains. We don't really know what's going to happen, and consequences could be quite big. So what can we do as designers, right? Technology is shaping our futures. We know that ethics will play kind of a central role in how society is going to look like. A few things that we can start thinking about when we design, or when we are actually just involved in the design process, are just these three that I wrote on the screen. The first one is to be involved in the decision-making process. In other words, that means that it's a decision and it's up to us if we want to change something that it was told us to be done. The second point is we have to increase the standards of our products. As I've mentioned in the beginning, we are also users, so we want to make sure that whatever we are using, it's for the best of us and we are really working with the best experiences. And the third point, which I also think it's something that I'm doing right now, is that we need to raise awareness. And if there is something that we know it's going to affect someone, we can tell to someone else and they can do better next time. Now, you will see a lot of quotes in these presentations, but there are a few things that I would like to highlight. I think as designers, we need to be aware of what we are designing and how it will impact the end user. It really doesn't matter the medium. And just saying that, I would like to start also with a bit of definitions, because the talk today is called Ethics in Digital Design. And anyone could have quite of a different definition here, but I like to say that digital design is a type of visual communication that presents an information, product or service through a digital interface. And in the past, the digital interface meant my computer that you have seen there in that picture. It evolved quite rapidly, and it got targeted more towards mobile screens, tablets. In today's digital interface, it's even more than that. So digital interface is now just a medium where we could interact as humans with computers. And just naming a few, as Afif also mentioned in the beginning, of course you can think of this, but websites, mobile apps, multimedia presentations, VR apps, but you can even think of social media posts, 3D models, animations. Really, you can name it. The domain is really big. The second part of this, which I would like to highlight, is when you think of design ethics are just some responsible guidelines for everyone involved in the product design process. And I put here an asterisk because being involved, it means you can be there at any time in the development cycle. You can create, you can help, but most important, you are influencing the product itself. So you are called a decision maker. So thinking about decision maker, a decision maker is directly responsible for the work they put out in the world. I put here a diagram from an academic paper. It might look very complicated for now, but it describes the process of taking decisions while designing a product. Now, just analyzing a little bit, we don't have to understand everything. The first thing right off is that there are multiple influencers when taking a decision for a product. So you can think of the business, you can think of the life cycle, you can also think of your users, and they are all influencing one of each other. As you can see, everything is connected, and there is just a state of now, but there are also multiple states in the future. And by the way, now that I've just seen this in the chat, if you have questions, please put them all in the Q&A section. We're gonna look for them towards the end. Okay, continuing, there is this really cool diagram made by Kurt Argel from representing the limits of the ethical design. He mentioned that decision making in design has kind of like 3 levels, and depending on the level, there are some places where we can have more things to say, but other places where there's not much that we can do. So I would like to emphasize a little bit on those and just show you some examples. Making it bigger, making this bigger, this is kind of like the pyramid. Taking the first level is the infrastructure. So the infrastructure is really the medium where we design and build a technology. This is telling us that it can have big opportunities as well as constraints for the design. So since it's something that we already start with, I would say it's mostly like a requirement. For UX, you can think that the infrastructure is either the web, or you can be desktop, you can be a native app like an Android or iOS. So in here, there's really not much that we can change, but instead, it's something that we can master. So we make sure that we can take the best decision. And when I say master, just think about design patterns, what are the new trends, what is it that are the lows for certain infrastructures and mediums, and think about the Web3 as well. So that's the first one. And as you can see, it's also quite big. The next one, which is built on top of the infrastructure, is the business. In the past, the business was focused a lot on product decisions. So designers were not really part of it, and it really affects and defines the core product. You can think here about the way you would build your business model. So you think of your target group, what are the features, and it's influenced a lot with user research because you have to do a lot of problem validation, solution testing, and so on. So as I mentioned that in the past, designers were not really too much involved in this layer. As the UX culture is more mature within a company, designers get involved more and more in these decisions as well. So I think it's also the responsibility of the designers to ask for getting involved. And I think the outcome of this collaboration, it can be quite beneficial for the product. The last layer, which I think anyone is familiar with, is the interface layer. And in here, designers are definitely in charge, represents the interactions between the digital objects and the users. And you can get in this layer direct feedback from your customers. Again, going back to the UX patterns, A/B testing, journey maps, you can test your decisions in this level. And since we have the most decision power here, you need to check everything if it's right in the place. And here you can really apply responsible guidelines. It's our responsibility to pull away designing screens and experiences that don't match our values. So think again back to the levels and see where there is something that you can actually put a mark on. Now, the second question of today is, now you got familiar about what it means to take decisions. You might maybe understand where some topics could be sensitive, but how can we actually make sure our design decisions are ethical? There is not really one answer here. So instead, what I will try to do is to define design ethics, and I will give you some examples, practical examples of how can we actually achieve these levels. So another pyramid, this time different. It's made by the indie team, and it's quite popular. If you're probably going to Google design ethics, I think it's one of the first images that you're going to find, but I think it's also quite important. A couple of things to start off. You have at the base the human rights, then it's followed by human efforts, and then human experiences. How it should be, since it's also constructed in this way, the base of the design ethics, it should be that we should secure and promote the human rights through the features of our product. Think about reducing inequality, benefits in democracy, and so on. But in reality, a lot of times, how it's normally done, we actually start defining the features, making the UI really cool. You might be checking afterwards if the flows are functional, and then if you have time, maybe also think about the last step, which for us was the first one. So what can we really do here? And I'm not saying that anytime we are designing something, you should just forget about everything and check all of this. But it would be good if you could create a checklist for yourself. And when thinking about that checklist, you should always try to answer this question: what are our users saying about our product? They should say it works, it's intuitive, it gives us joy, it empowers us. In terms of checklists, you might find some tools also on the internet. Maybe this is screenshot time, but I've seen recently this digital ethics compass. It's made by the Danish Design Center, and it provides you 3 topics with questions that you can ask yourself during the design process, and you can check it for yourself. 3 things that you're going to see is that you learn about the principles, they give recommendations, and they also show you some do's and don'ts. So in case you would like to start off with your checklist, I think this is already a good resource that you can use, and it's free, so it's just on the internet for now. You can use it anytime. Okay, continuing with the checklist, there are also a couple of things that I would like to recommend. We also look into some practical examples. We'll start with the first one. I think it's also one of the most popular. I'm pretty sure you have heard this term before, and it's everywhere on the internet. You're gonna see in the moment when I show you examples. Dark patterns are misleading design patterns created with the purpose of getting the user to do something unintended. There is also this organization called darkpatterns.org. Really cool. It's a complete website with examples of that. But I would like to also go and show you a few here. There are really a lot of types of dark patterns, but the one that I wanted to start with is called confirm shaming. As the name says, it's the act of guilting the user when choosing an option. It's normally really worded in such a way to shame the user if they are choosing what the person who built this didn't want them to be chosen. So starting with the first example from a very popular styling magazine, which asks someone when they enter the website, and by the way, I'm pretty sure they are not on the internet anymore, but someone took a screenshot at that time, just so you know. Pretty sure this was reported. So going back, they asked the user who entered the website at a given time through a pop-up if they want to stay on top of all the they actually care about to sign up now for the newsletter. And the answers were probably obviously yes, and then I'm boring. So just thinking about it, who would click I'm boring? Just when you do this option, you're going to think about, is this really the website I want to be in? And what is wrong? Why did they just write down this message? So maybe this was a little bit brave. I'm pretty sure not all the websites that you're going to enter will show you this kind of pop-up. But another one that might be more familiar to you is the pop-up where you get kind of like percentage off or a coupon for when you sign up for the newsletter again. Everything was fine with this pop-up. I mean, fine with the wording until towards the end, where they said, yeah, you don't want to put your email here. We don't provide you an X or a way to go out, but instead, if you want to go out, just click on this button that says, no, I'm good. I would like to pay the full price. So how would you know that I would like to pay that price? Maybe I'm not even buying anything. So instead of taking assumptions for our users or just making us to feel weird if we click on a button, it's just better to provide a way out of this. Now the latest one was a screenshot of notification from Gmail, which says to switch the latest version on your iPhone for the Gmail app, and the official Gmail app brings smarter faster and safer email to your iPhone. And options are, yes, I want it, totally fine until here, and no, I don't want smarter email. Now, you're gonna ask, okay, maybe it's not that bad. And I agree with you, maybe it's not that bad. But I still think, that's not the best. So don't do this. Instead of doing this, just emphasize the good part out of it. So make me do the change by showing me the good of this action. So instead of saying it that it's not smarter, tell me that it's safer, so then my emails will be better protected. Just put this out in front. If there is an option to opt out, just let me know as well that I can switch back anytime. And instead of just being such a smart ass and saying, I don't want smarter email, just say, I will give it a try, and nope, I'm good this time. I will do it maybe later. So that was the first example of a dark pattern. Other types of dark patterns, and I've told you previously, there are really multiple. I put here 3 more that I think you might have experienced already. The first one is called the Roach Motel. In the name, it might be a little bit funny. It's getting into a situation very easily, but then it's very hard for you to get out. So imagine a premium subscription, and I'm pretty sure you guys recognize these images. They are all from very, very popular websites, so pretty sure you know already who this is. The biggest offender in this dark patterns area. And what they say is that, just subscribe and save a lot of money. It's very easy. You just hit the button, you get it at your place on Tuesday, 4th of June. But when you are trying to unsubscribe, you have to go through like 3 forms, go find a section out of 5 other sections. So it's not going to be very easy for you. I think, honestly, if you would like to be more ethical in this domain, just provide a fair option. Have that unsubscribe button somewhere anytime, and just don't make it so hard for the users to go there, because they will do it anyways. And when they will reach there, they will just be more angry. So why would you like that? The second type of dark patterns, I've seen it less and less throughout the year, but I think there is this example here. Still do it, so I wanted to add it in the presentation too, is to find in the last step when you are buying something or booking in this case, some unexpected charges. So they would put you a price that is lower, just so you can make the choice. You are super excited, you get in the last step, and then you see you have a few other charges. In this case was almost half the price of the booking. And since you like this so much, you will continue anyway. But if you try to go back, you realize that other options have some hidden costs as well. So why not just putting them off straight up from the beginning? I know this is more like a sales technique, but in general, if someone will get really angry about it, maybe because they have a limited budget or they just have a bad day, they won't enter your website again. And the last example for the dark patterns is the bait and switch. There is this very popular example here from the Windows 10 update. Basically, what it does, it's using well-known patterns to get the user to do something, but the result is different. So I'm not sure how well you see this pop up here, but probably you know it if you had the Windows before. What it does is it recommended you to update to a newer version, but the options were a bit strange. So instead of having the regular ones where you have update now or schedule for later if you didn't want to, it has upgrade now and okay. So if you were hitting the X, you would probably just expect, I don't want to watch this, I will just do it later. Instead, what it was doing, it was just updating it on Sunday, on the day that it was showing you. If you wanted to do a rescheduling, you had to hit here, the here underline link, and just reschedule it later, which was a little bit hidden. They changed it afterwards, but it was part of quite of an aggressive campaign to for the users to update their PC. Okay. Probably, obviously, by now, I don't recommend anyone to use this. The next question would be, why shouldn't we use them, right? I try to kind of get into the mindset, but dark patterns work mostly on the short term. So they only give you success at that given time, but on the long run, this is not really sustainable. Using them on the long term, it will give you quite of a negative ethical alternatives, will be quite angry. You'll probably also get bad publicity. So you don't know exactly how it's going to be. I have here, before going into the next subject, a quote from Mike Monteiro. He also wrote the book Ruined by Design, which is also quite of a nice read in this domain for anyone who would like to read it. Design is about keeping people from doing terrible things to other people. Now, I'm joking, definitely not only that, but I think it could also happen sometimes in our practice that we would have to take care of that. So, next topic is inducing urgency. I did a search on the internet just before putting up the presentation together, and if you just Google up inducing urgency, you're gonna find so many articles about that. Most of them, and here is where I highlighted the part, they refer to inducing urgency as, tricks, how to use the tricks to drive sales. How can you use this in marketing copy and do more conversions? How can you use the psychology of this and then again have more sales? So personally, I think definitely there are some things that we can do, but the first one out of this whole domain, because as you see there are 13 tricks that you can use, I will put up an example of the most popular one, and I'm pretty sure everyone knows it. Maybe you didn't think of it like really such a problem, but I would like to put a different highlight on it. So scarcity is the action in which people assign a higher value to items that are rare or low in quality. Is just because our human logic dictates that if something is rare, it must be in high demand, so I must have it. Biggest offender example again, probably know the website. They show it to you that they only have 4 items left in stock. So they induce you the urgency of buying it, but they don't tell you that maybe next week they will have another stock again. Since this is a retailer, maybe you find related products that are the same, but they put this up front. The font is bigger, the color is stronger, just to put more emphasis on this. Another practice that I have seen more and more at airlines is they advertise it in the beginning when you are buying a seat, that there is this special price and there are only a few seats remaining at this price. Anyways, throughout the history, airlines have this practice of making the price of a ticket more expensive over time, but they started to put a different view on this practice. So a lot of times you're gonna see this line here to induce the urgency also when buying a plane ticket for most probably your holiday, which was supposed to be relaxing. But that's how they start. The third one to finish the holiday with is another big offender in this domain, which is a website where you can book hotels. And I don't even know how to start here because it has so many problems all put together that you are already probably identifying. So this room is, has 5-star, has a thumbs up, it's promoted, it's fabulous, it has a good rating, location is great, it's 2.5 kilometers from the center, early 2020 deal, it was booked 2 times on the date in the last 6 hours. Only one room left like this on the website. It's risk-free, free cancellation. I think you're even so full of listening how I read this. So what do you understand? And what do you understand if you see 5 of this, one after each other on the row? How can you actually take a decision? So I think this is a don't do. But instead, what we can do is to revisit the copy. They say there that there is only one row left like this on the website. So to take the good part, and for me, I was thinking that the good part would be like this, and I tried to reinterpret it. And I was thinking, just tell me that this is maybe 99% a match for me. So maybe this is tailored. It's really a decision for me. Because I think, as I mentioned, if you have 5 out of this, like one after each other on the row, my trust in credibility that this is really tailored for me and it's really good decision, I think it might be quite low. And there is also this calm take principle where less is more. Don't put so many text styles and colors because it looks confusing. It's just very hard for me to take the decision, and I also think I wouldn't go back to such an experience. I would try to look for alternatives. So going back to scarcity, our mind works in such a way that we try to avoid risks, or if we decide to take them, is usually because we are feeling confident or there is a potential reward behind that action. So instead of putting so much pressure, maybe try to put more emphasis on the fact that there is a reward behind it, or try to make us feel more confident in taking that decision, but not scaring us or just not making us busy about it or just feeling weird when we take a decision. Because if I just take a break 15 minutes out of the computer, I won't take that room again. I think it's okay. There are decisions that we can take without having the pressure on top. And the last topic is I put up 3 other considerations and ethics that I find important. And in here, I could do a presentation about each of them, but I just wanted to give everyone a little bit of food of thought about these topics and just to think about them because they are very popular in building, especially web products. So accessibility. This is the first one. Accessibility is the concept of whether a product or a service can be used by anyone. And used by anyone also includes in any context. So accessibility, in general, it should be incorporated in the development process, but a lot of time it happens like an afterthought. So I think it could be also something that we can do as designers in our design phase. Just the minimum of the example here, you can give it a read for the web content accessibility guidelines, but something that you can do is anytime you design something, just think about 3 items. One would be provide just a minimum of color contrast. They are even getting laws in place, at least in Europe. If your website or your app, your product or service that it's on the internet is not accessible, then you might also get a fine. Another point is to provide context. If you have a person with disabilities that is using maybe a screen reader and they try to go throughout your app, make sure you provide context for each section so they could listen and also understand what you were presenting on the product. And also provide alt text to your pictures. Alt text to the pictures, it means that you are trying to describe any picture from your, let's say, website again, to someone that doesn't really see it. So, short reminder, if something is difficult, also frustrating, is definitely inaccessible. And down here, you see an example of what I meant with the low contrast and how you can really just add a couple of touch-ons and make it a little bit better. And I'm not saying this example is really the best, but at least try to think of users with disabilities in accessibility, it can also happen to us. And just one thing to think of is, imagine you go outside, you get your phone and you try to look at the screen, maybe on an app, and there is a lot of sun going on your screen. If there is not good contrast, not even you're gonna see it, what's written down there. Second point, I think it's a big topic today and nowadays, it's privacy. Privacy, it's a sensitive topic as well with the data collection, but the best ethical design practice would be to develop designs that only collect personal information that is for the best interest of the users. So try always to think of the good of the users of your product. And what can you do here? I tried to put an example of an onboarding that has some good practices, is to be transparent about the data you are collecting, to give an option to opt out anytime if they don't want to continue, to allow users to delete the data if you already collected, and also to choose which data is collected. And the last item is a practice that I've seen it more and more, and it says just don't tick the agree checkbox when they read the terms and conditions. Just so you know, it's not legal. And I will put a dot here. Last point, sustainability. Sustainability is very different. Defining sustainability is very different from physical to digital products. There are different principles here. So I just put a few for the digital one because I'm more comfortable with, but do give it a read if you are interested more into this topic. Both of them have a high impact. So no matter which one, it's something that there are a few things that we can do here. In terms of designing digital products, what you can do is to use web fonts, maybe not more than 1 and 2, because then you won't load your app or your website with more data. Try to compress the pictures before you upload them. Make sure you also use an accessible color palette, optimize your copy, and lastly, why not just using eco-friendly hosting servers for your app. And if you are anytime worrying about the results of your product, or if you have a portfolio or a website that you would like to test, there are a lot of carbon CO2 testers on the internet. So this was my website. I tested it in January, and it was cleaner than 82% of the web pages tested so far. So I was quite proud, but I wanted to achieve a little bit more than 86%. And just going back at why we should care is because every time someone loads a web page, it emits an average like 6 grams of CO2. And maybe it doesn't sound too much, but this means that all the web accounts, they are 2% out of the total global emissions, and that's equivalent of the global aviation industry, which there is so much going on in the media, but there is not much going on about the internet. So if you are still with me, and I hope you are, it's quiz time. So I will ask everyone, and I will give a couple of minutes to take out your phone. And Afif, if you are still with me, you can also do that as well. Open Slido. Open Slido, and the moment when you open it, it will ask you to enter a number. This is the number you're gonna enter. And we're gonna play a very, very short game, just so we make sure that we consolidate the learnings of today. So let's see. How many people do we have yet? I will wait. This is the dummy. It is a dummy screen, just so you know. Okay, not yet, not yet. I have the counter on top, so I will give it a little bit more until I see maybe 20, 25 people. Let's see. Okay, 21. Maybe half of you could join. 24, okay, 25. We're gonna have a winner at the end. Maybe if I say that, more people will join. 28, yes, good. 29, good. But no prizes. Just a winner, a digital winner. 30. Okay, I think that's a good number to start. I have a few dummy questions in the beginning, but if you feel like, okay, 33, maybe I should wait a little bit more. 34. Did anyone voted here yet? If you did, I'm just giving you a couple of moments to get used with the interface. Okay, I think 34 is it's a good amount. 35, hard to stop. I'm gonna hit next. So just so you know how it's gonna work, before the quiz, there is one more question, but after the quiz, you will have 30 seconds for you to give an answer. And at the end, the person who gives the right answer and gives it in the shortest amount of time, it will be the winner. So let's see how this goes. Next question is still not with the time, not part of the quiz. So in one word, I would be just curious, what do you think of when you hear design ethics? Now that you have seen the presentation, what does it make you think of? And if you cannot really do it in one word, you can also do it in two, it's fine. I will be waiting everyone to go on the next slide. Okay, let's see. So we have responsibility, okay, considerations, honesty, morals, okay, giving credits, that's also very good. Practices to follow while designing. I need to take a screenshot for this. I love it already, okay. Awareness again, rules, morality. It's crucial, I also like that. Creative, very good. Okay, honesty, sustainability. Happy to see it connected to it. Awareness, giving credits. Okay. Anything else? I will just take a screenshot before that. Okay, no, cool. I think everyone got used with how Slido works. Then be ready, and we're gonna move to the quiz. I will wait until 34 people join to the next one. Let's see. Okay, put up your names. Hey. Okay. 10 more people. And then we start. Cool. And off we go. First question. What is a dark pattern? Should be an easy one. So, used for dark themes, pattern used to get a user to do something unintended, or a usable UI component developed at night. We almost have half of the answers. 10 more seconds. Come on. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Good. That was easy. So happy that most of you got it right. Dark design pattern. So a dark pattern is a design pattern to get a user to do something unintended. It's not a pattern used for dark themes. Any pattern can be used for dark themes, so that's obvious. And the last one was just a tricky one. I wanted to see if you paid attention. Second question. Oh, and the leaderboard. Yay! So we have Tara on the first place, and I think it's just on the same place as Din. So let's see how you guys doing on the next one. What are the negative impacts of using dark patterns on the long run? First, conversions and sales are temporary, bad publicity, or users will rapidly choose alternative products. This has multiple answers, or none. It's tricky. Let's see if you paid attention to what we just discussed previously. Let's see. Half more. 3 seconds. 2. Okay. So I said this one is tricky because in reality, all of them were actually good answers. Indeed, the last one is something that will definitely happen, but also conversions are temporary. There is bad publicity that can go and happen, and everyone will use alternative products. So happy with the answers as well, but I think the leaderboard might change. Oh, there it's still the first, and then, hey, okay. Let's see, you still have time, guys, to catch it up. Why does Car City work so well? It's a popular method, people are used to it. It's psychology. The human mind is more drawn to purchase something in high demand or because it's used in sales. This one is one answer. Just so you know, no more tricks. So 8, 7, 5, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Okay, so it's psychology. In reality, I'm happy to see this was also one of the highest answers. Our human mind is drawn to purchase something that it's high in demand, so it's rare, because we want to also be part of it. It's also a method that it's used in sales, and it's also quite popular, but it's not the main reason why it works, because it works because it's us. We are the problem here. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the last question. Oh no, we have 2 more. Okay, so Taro, it's we have to give you something if you're gonna win. We have to think of something, Gaki. What is the main principle of accessibility in design? One answer. An accessible product can be used on any device, can be translated into any language, or can be used by anyone in any context. Just think of the main principle. Okay. 10. Almost everyone voted. 5, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. That was tricky. So the main principle is that it can be used by anyone in any context. And let me go back 1 point. The first answer where I mentioned that it can be used on any device, this is just part of it. So it's not important just to be used on any device, but it also has to be accessible and available to everyone. And when I mean anyone here, it's really any age group, if they have any disabilities or not, any country, any language, and really being inclusive. Okay, Tara and Dean, very close. But I feel that the leaderboard changed below a little bit. So, last question, and probably the most decisive one. What privacy concerns should we keep in mind when designing digital products? Good color contrast, transparency on data collection, option to opt out. And don't forget, this is privacy. So privacy concerns. Let's see. 10, 5, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Also tricky. So privacy concerns are mostly about transparency and definitely an option to opt out. Color contrast is important, but it's important for accessibility. Told you guys this is not going to be easy. It was the last one, it had to be hard. So, wow, the leaderboard changed. Hey, great. So we have Harsh, who's on the first place. Great. And as I mentioned, this was the hardest questions. What were the negative impacts of using dark patterns in your product in the long run? And let me guys take a screenshot. I will be really happy to give you a diploma at the end. And last question, what is it one thing that it's new for you and you've learned today that you find important? Can be anything. I hope you didn't leave the Slido. Are you still with me, guys? If you left the Slido, then I would have to switch. You can put it to the Q&A. Dark team. Cool. Okay, Let's come back. Yes? Oh. Okay. Dark patterns. I prefer dark patterns instead of dark themes. Sustainability in web projects is something to consider. Really nice. Dark patterns rules. Did I just see that? Okay, we have to talk towards the end. We should always design for the user. This is very correct. I think although if I didn't, really explicitly mention in the beginning, I tried to put it throughout the presentation. Slido, it's a new thing that you find important today. I hope you're going to use it in the future because I found it really fun when I used it myself. It explains simplified, being engaged, cool. Decision-making levels in design, really nice. Inducing urgency. I just hope you're not going to use it. I hope you're going to just be aware. Accessibility, transparency. Sales is not everything. That's also quite of a nice one. Indeed, sales is not everything, but you can do sales with ethics. So just ethical sales. Maybe this is just the name of a new webinar. Guys, taking a screenshot out of this too. And my last advice for today, I would say leave your phone now. We are done with Slido. I will just put 2 screens here with resources for you to follow. If you are interested into the subject and you found a couple of items interesting, I will recommend you the following books. The one that I like the most is Ethical Design Handbook by Trin Palp. She's really great in this domain. She's everywhere on the internet. I find her such an inspiration. I also put down here some links. Do visit this website if you think dark patterns are interesting for you. There is also a place on the website that is called Hall of Shame instead of the usual Hall of Fame. All the examples that you have seen today, I think you're also gonna see them on the website. There is also Calm Tech by Amber Case, which is an interesting concept that I would like you to follow up on. Look at the Sustainable Development Goals and also look at another lens. It's made by Airbnb, although I know they might be some offenders sometimes. They are also doing cool things. And lastly, because accessibility was also quite of a big topic, so take screenshots if you want to, look up these tools later. There are these websites that you can use, especially when you are designing for web. The first ones are just for color contracts or just looking a little bit about how you can adjust them. We also have a color blindness simulator to see how it's like to have disabilities and still using our products, and some testing tools that you can use. And I think I'm really done. So that was it. If you have questions, please put them up there in the Q&A area, not in the chat. Would be really great if you can put them in the Q&A. And thank you.
Yes, I am back, and thanks, Alexandra. It was really interesting. All the things that you had to teach. So I think we can stop sharing our screens, and we can take up some questions. Okay, so just to mention, in the quiz, you guys are really smart. So I was 11th in the whole quiz. So yeah, I look forward to seeing who's in the top 10. Okay,
it was quite tight, I have to say, and I also had some tricky questions, so I was really curious to see how it's gonna finish.
Yeah, I think now these people are going to just get very competitive, so let's not have them fight this over. So okay, so before we move on to questions that everyone has lined up, and if any one of you has any more questions right now, you can post them in the Q&A section right away so that I can ask them out on behalf of you. So all right, I have one question, because a lot of designers work in teams, right? So what happens when you see it happening? You see it happening, it's out there, it's not the most ethical way of doing it, but how do you take it up? How do you convey it to your fellow team members? How maybe to your lead designer? So yeah, that's the question.
Wanted to make a joke and say you fight, but actually I think it's the right answer. I think you should fight for it. Now it sounds silly, but if you learn something also from this presentation, if there are some principles of you and some values that you would like maybe your fellow designers, team members to work on, maybe your boss, you never know who is going to be, make a presentation for that. Present it to everyone, tell them what are your values. Maybe they don't even know they are doing something wrong. It happened in the past while I worked with people, also with clients of mine. They asked for some features, let's say, and when until I told them that there are some consequences that might be unintended, they didn't realize they were doing something wrong. So I think if you remember one of the very first slides that said it's our responsibility to bring awareness. So fight for it could translate into just bring some awareness for fellows around you.
Okay, all right. Okay, let's take questions that everyone has. So Pratyush has a question. It is not very related to the topic that we are talking about right now, but since he is, I guess he is looking at how you are excelling in your career. He has a question that I am getting started with UI UX. So how can I maintain the consistency till I land my first job? Because sometimes in the initial phase, I go through a lot of self doubts.
Oh, I think it does make a lot of sense, actually. There is one point when you are taking first jobs, right? You might be tempted to take a job maybe that is not the most ethical, or it's not the most ethical domain. So you would like to maybe be consistent with that. I think you should try to keep a balance. Try out to be open about who you are when you are looking for a job, and maybe you see some red flags. And in terms of going through the initial phase and having some doubts, try to use checklists, or there are a lot of resources on the internet, maybe not just about ethics, but in general, usability, accessibility, anything like that. And I know it can be overwhelming because there are so many that you can use, but try to have a couple of days where you read about them and make your own checklist and use it afterwards in your initial phases, and even use it when you get a job. Just try to be consistent with that and get informed.
Okay, awesome. So for the next question, Srushti asks, how does one find a balance between ethical design and business models?
It's like saying using urgency and sales and also being ethical. I think it's difficult. I'm not going to say no. It is difficult, but the first thing you can do is to have a seat at the table of the moment when someone takes business decisions. And in the presentation I've mentioned, it's up for you to get involved. So build up your case. If, again, you see a red flag, just bring some awareness about it, and also offer some alternatives. Because it is one just to say, oh, I don't like it, or something is not good. But if you are not coming up with a solution to that, no one will do something different.
True that. Okay, so for the next question, Aditya has one for you. How to advocate for ethical design when the client has short-term business interest in mind?
Again, this is the nightmare of designers, I assume. Yeah, I think it's just that. Try to come up with alternatives. If they insist, do try to take the good part out. So why is it that they insist? And maybe it's sales, maybe it's conversions. And if you're coming up with an alternative to that it's still ethical, I think you can still build up your case. So it's not about not doing it, but it's about doing it right.
That makes sense. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Is language a part of accessibility? creating an app that has different language alternatives as against, to just one language?
I think it's more part of localization. So most of the users, I would say, if you know you design for a certain market, just make sure you have the best experiences in that language. This is already good enough. I think it's not necessarily accessible, but it's more inclusive. So if you can provide options, yes, you can do it. So, but if it's difficult for you, just make sure you have the best experiences in the language for the market you've designed for.
True. Okay, so this one is also good. So Harsh asks, dark patterns can be tempting sometimes, and we can possibly miss it while we are in the process and rush of getting the product into the market. So are there any tricks that can keep us in check throughout the product building phase, and so that we do not fall in the trap of using dark patterns?
They can be tempting indeed. So I think it's a bit hard to miss them, honestly. If there is a point, at any point in your building process, you're gonna have like a doubt, then maybe that's the best time to check it. Most of them are obvious. So I think the best you can do is to run a usability testing at the end with people that have no idea about it. Maybe have a pool of people that are a bit more critical and you can use them to give you the red flags. But normally through user testing, you will notice if there's anything wrong. So for example, let's say you are using maybe a dark pattern to drive the sales or just drive the conversion really fast. Of course, usability wise, people will finish the task. That's awesome. But I think you're gonna get some comments on the way. Maybe like some whys, like why am I seeing this? Or I know this from my own experience. So maybe when you do usability testing, don't look just for the results, but look up also for the comments. Might be a red flag for you, so then you know there is something you can do better.
Okay, so should the next question is by Marlo. So, should user-centered designers always side with the user?
What do you think? What do you think, Marlo? I think just imagine you are also the user. So if you would like to go through the experiences that you design yourself, then I think that's the answer. I think if your product is user-centric, and I think most of the products, I don't see an exception why they shouldn't be. You should be the side of the user.
Okay, we have one last question, and not related to this topic again, but let me ask you this: how well versed are you with the NFT market, NFT industry?
Well, I have to say this is also new for me. I'm not a designer for NFTs, so I don't know much about it. I did get some projects and chance to work on some NFT platforms though. So if you are interested, I heard you guys have a webinar about that. Is that true, Afif?
We have a whole course for NFT to start off with. So anyone who wants to do that, go ahead and you can enroll for the course right away. And because the question is that from Habib, how can I get started pretty well as product designer in the NFT product design?
I don't know exactly how to answer this question because it's not really my topic, but maybe we'll find out in the course.
Sure, why not? All right, so that was it for the questions. It was really great to have you, Alexandra. I think this was one of those workshops where you don't really dive into the very specific design disciplines, but focus on what people generally tend to ignore, if I may say. So thanks a lot for that. It was really interactive. The quiz was amazing. I think next time I'll try to be in the top 5, if not the top 3. So yeah, that's for me. I hope everyone here liked the workshop as well, and yeah, we hope to see you in our upcoming workshops. And for the upcoming workshop that we have one on the top non-design skill that everyone needs. So you can enroll for that. I have posted a link here, and yeah, you can go ahead and enroll for the same. And that's about it. We are here heading towards the end of the day in India. So thanks a lot for everyone who joined in. Hope you have a great weekend ahead of you, and we hope to see you soon.
I also left out my LinkedIn for anyone who would like to keep in touch. I will also try to post some of the resources in case you didn't get time to take screenshots. And thank you, Afif, again. It was a great session. Thank you, everyone.
Sandra.
Bye.
Bye bye, everyone.